Alright, shit. It's been a while since the last episode of the Astronaut Nature. You know, this is not a subject that can simply generate content for the heck of it. It's a little bit more complex than that, thank you. And it is not something that can just be repeated, even though that's exactly what I've been doing. There is not a way to do it properly without the inspiration. And I believe that when the time comes for me to sit in front of this microphone and deliver this rant, it's because it's the perfect time for me to do so. And so far, it hasn't been till now. So we're back. This is the Astronaut Nature, and I don't remember what the number of the episode is, but the information about what episode and what season it belongs to should be attached to this clip. Okay, here we go. I want to say something so honest, so plain, so sincere that anybody can relate to it. How about I don't want to die and I don't want to age? Alright, let's make it even more personal. From my side of the story, I like the fact of knowing that I am evolving. I do not like the decaying part. I don't understand that as a must. I don't think there is a need for that to be the only way in an infinite universe. This is infinite, so this is just maybe a program among the infinite possibilities. A program that I don't agree with. I never knew how to deal with that program. I don't want to experience the aging part. I like certain parts of my growing up sequence, and I want the best of that to remain with me for as long as I want to. And the truly remarkable thing about all this is the fact that I do not know where these feelings of contradiction come from. Because the logic that organizes the intelligence and the intellect that rules the way I think is letting me know that I didn't generate this particular contradiction from scratch. Therefore, it's not necessarily mine or not mine only, and so it is something that belongs to this dimension. And if that something is translated somehow into a question through me, there must be an answer, and the answer is also here, and is already here, because if the logic of the questioning is here, the entire meaning is already among us. And why do I think like that? Because this game that we call life here, in this dimension, is one of practicality. How can I make you feel sure about that, or at least to consider it in that way? Let's understand that within the confines of this existence, everything has a meaning. Even chaos has a clear definition. We recognize it as a perfect and undeniable thing. I imagine I'm not the only one who can perceive it like that, or who can understand this in this way. Also, I hear a lot of people saying things like, I'm not afraid of dying. I am not afraid of this and I'm not afraid of that. Always referring to things and events that either they never had a chance to go through fully, or maybe they're just expressing hope or something that make them sound cool or different or progressive. But the thing is that knowing how the human intellect is wired in a scientific perspective, and just by living as a human being, we know that it's freaking impossible that we're not going to be afraid of dying. The only way that we can maybe experience a certain detachment from the fear of oblivion, the fear of disappearance, It's probably through something that we can recognize as a common lie, a traditional lie, an organized one, something that we can repeat to ourselves, something that will help us convince ourselves that this is not it. Maybe through a religious false hope, or who knows what other ideas can replace that kind of fear. And it is always going to be momentarily. The replacement is not gonna last. It's gonna have to be repeated over and over. Usually it's religion what will tell you that this is not the main show, that this is just rehearsal, which is bullshit if you think about it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. I'm just trying to be coherent with our common logical thinking, the same one we use when we're gonna cross the street, when we want to be civilized, when we want to learn something, when we want to communicate in a proper way, etc. Well, that very same logic tells us that, for example, there is no memory before this lifetime or absolute knowledge of the future. Then why do we think that there's gonna be something after when we are managing every single corner of our interpretation of time right here, right now? And everything we know and say to ourselves from generation to generation, it is stuff that we learn here. Nowhere else. Yes, we learn to learn here. That's how deep this thing goes. Everything we say about anything, we learn it here. You can argue with me right now about every single detail in my message, and you're gonna have to use only language and reasoning, and whatever else you bring to the table is gonna be stuff that you learn here, that you learn how to use here, that you harvested while becoming part of this. Even if you bring a weapon, and sure, this is gonna sound like a really well-known sentiment, but let me say it again. Everything we have, everything we can be, everything that we can discover, everything that we can argue about, everything that we can deny, everything that we can consider forbidden, everything that we can consider logical, illogical, or illegal, and or legal, or whatever, every single thing that affirms or denies this very thing is part of this thing. And there's nothing else but this, because everything is here. That's the truth. That's the undeniable truth. When I say this is the only thing we have, I'm not saying this is limited to anything. I'm just saying that this moment is what we have, and then this moment, and then this moment. And you would say, but how is that gonna benefit me? Or how is that gonna affect me? Or why do I need to know that? And I say, shut up, bitch, and keep listening. Okay, let me clarify something truly important, at least from my perspective. I am not talking here from a place of superiority when it comes to all these problems we deal with in our existence. I am scared as fuck. I do not like the idea of dying. I am honest about it. That's the difference. I was in a situation a few years ago when I had to confront death in a series of layers, and I almost died just because my entire system was not necessarily coping with that. And instead of being totally depressed about grief or whatever the heck I was going through forever, I did oscillate between fighting it, surrendering, and whatever else I was developing on the fly as a strategic way to not die trying. I wanted to know why the fuck. I never stopped paying attention, and I never stopped wondering why. I did let life do the talking part, and that was it. But I still wanna know also many things. I got rid of memories and momentums and things that were part of my past. Everything that I needed to get rid of, I did get rid of. I moved from cities, I left the whole country behind. I did whatever the heck I needed to do in order to recover my speed, my happiness, my persona, because everything else was telling me to go to hell, and I didn't want to do that. So, here I am. Yeah, you could see me sometimes in those moments when I was looking defeated and terribly sad because I went from being a beacon of optimism and life to be a dark and toxic antenna of depression. And I didn't have any willpower in the process. That's how I felt. I was just going through it. That's when I realized that it was feeling like a program. It felt like a cultural coding that I couldn't stop. And it felt like many other things that we can describe as lack of freedom. That is how, in certain occasions, processes like grief feel like. And you know what? If the idea is for you to get the meaning and the importance of something, well, enough is enough. You get the feeling, that's all you need to know. You're not going to diminish the importance of anything if you can finally step out of being frozen and think clearly and take the next step towards something more convenient. Being paralyzed is not the same thing as respect. Being paralyzed is being paralyzed. That's all it is. And as far as I understand, no matter how wonderful might be the idea of a next life or a future existence, I gave it a chance already. But if you don't have any other reference, then this one is all we have. And if you think that I'm saying that this is what we have and we need to get used to the idea of enjoying this moment because life is short and all that crap, no. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that there is something here that has the potential to be anything we want, including everlasting life. If the logic of this dimension means what it means in a coherent way, then everything is possible within the confines of this dimension. No need to go anywhere else. What happened now is that there's gonna be a moment in existence, in your existence, when you are gonna recognize yourself as existence. You don't need to make any effort or anything like that. Just consider the idea and how it simply makes sense. And the moment is now. It's happening right now, right here. What can we do with that moment, with that recognition? I don't think anybody can tell you except yourself. And for fuck's sake, I am not referring only to the power of the present moment or any of that. I am referring to the possibility of placing your logic and your power whenever and wherever you want by simply recognizing your intelligence about it. And you don't need to believe in this. You just need to consider it as a good idea, because it is. Okay, let's say the things the way they are. Let's be incredibly candid when it comes to this topic and let's express whatever we feel the way we feel in the most basic words that we can find. It is easy to understand or to relate to those ones that are so incredibly afraid of the unhappiness and darkness of everything related to death and disappearance. It is easy to see why they would rather give their mind a little bit of peace by trying to believe in something that their entire logical structure says that is not making sense, rather that than having to go through the horrible acceptance of the fact of losing your loved ones or seeing your lifestyle going away, your youth washing away, everything that you care for vanishing, getting to the point of considering the possibility that maybe we're just these biological deteriorating machines, biological machines that we have learned to take care of, biological bodies that we appreciate so much in most cases because we eventually come to like what and who we are fully in this representation, regardless of the fact that you can reassign genders or make alterations or whatever. Deeply, we love the idea of who we are and sometimes the flexibility of doing stuff with who we are, not losing anything in the process, just being able to shape-shift if we want. I understand the idea of a suicidal solution as a lack of freedom, usually. If we could change things, we will not be killing ourselves. And when I say change things, I'm referring also to feelings. If we could move our feelings to a different perspective when we have the need to do so and to not have to go through a length of a certain sensation that is painful and horrible and invasive, things would be different. And I believe that it is possible to evolve to a new line of behavioral sensitivity. And yes, it does require stop romanticizing bullshit. Because from that perspective, from that new window of opportunities, everything can be different. Guilt will be there, but people will react differently to the possibility of doing something about something and not just being a victim of an uncontrollable and overpowering cultural mindfuck. Yes, you cannot necessarily judge how good or how bad something like that would be for us from this particular set of circumstances. But in order to be there, in order to accomplish that possibility of transformation, there's so much that needs to be let go. There's a lot of facing the truth that needs to be done. You cannot simply access that superpower and being a bullshitter. You need to be one with the truth. And maybe, yes, sometimes approaching such a change involves a baby steps situation. Whatever it is, if you want to get there, you need to really embrace what you understand as truth in whatever way that would be possible. And remember, what you understand by truth has to be somehow related to what we all understand as truth, especially if you're going to need to interact with the world. We can play with words, we can confuse ourselves with semantics, but you know what truth is, and you know what your creative side of your personal endeavor is. And you will find a way to make both things work cohesively in a coherent fashion by simply letting the truth guide you, because logically you will find everything you need there. And that's not a moral statement, it is a logical one. That's what I understand from my perspective. We spend long years trying to be at peace, to embody our skins and make good use of these amazing machines that encapsulate our universe in so many ways that, yes, when you think about losing all that, it feels terrible. It is kind of horrible to think that this will simply vanish or dissolve or rotten just for the heck of it with no other plan. We all can understand that. And our logic, our thinking mechanism tells us that whether we like it or not, that's all we have been doing so far, and the cycle seems to be a fixed one. But we also have the questioning part. And what the fuck is that about? Why do we even do that? Why do we want to know anything? And why do we deal with fear? Why does fear exist at all? What is it that doesn't want to die? Let me repeat what I said many times before. We don't bring anything here, and therefore, we don't have the need of a particular fear, of a particular feeling at all. I'm not talking about being brave or defiant in the presence of fearful circumstances. No, I'm referring to the existence of the experience of fear in itself. Why the fuck? Sure, we can discuss about survival and its relationship with that. But again, why? If that is such a natural event, why so much fear about it? Especially human fear, natural fear. Nothing forced or anything like that. Simply an effective natural fear. Why? Why would nature deliver a creature that is afraid of something that is natural? Because fear is natural? Is that the answer? In the most intelligent end of all the creatures that we know, that's gonna be the answer? I don't think so. There's a contradiction there, and there's an opening to search a little bit more and to find new answers. Nothing went wrong, even though wrongness can be considered a natural thing as well. But I'm saying there's a reason why I have this question running through my mind right now. Other animals go through certain moments of fear. They don't want to be eaten, but fear of death seems to be something very human. Maybe because we can anticipate, maybe because we can remember suffering, and then we can place it in a possible future, and therefore it is horrible. Whatever the heck it is, why do we experience it at all?
To be continued.